Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I want to welcome you to the Engaged Employee Podcast. Our mission is to emphasize the relationship between the employee and the workplace with the goal of enhancing engagement levels to create a more productive and satisfying work environment. While many organizations strive to create a more engaging atmosphere, they often miss the mark by forcing connection with big team building events like axe throwing or escape rooms. Those activities only leave employees with a short-lived sense of belonging. Organizations may also try smaller and more suffocating events like happy hours or group birthday celebrations that their employees feel obligated to attend. As a social connections and business culture coach, I found that to create a stable, engaged, and productive workforce, there needs to be a shift in focus from mandatory fun and manufactured connection towards building trust and authentic conversation. Join me and a guest as we dive into social wellness strategies for the individual employee, techniques for developing interpersonal relationships with coworkers, and even some approaches for leaders to enrich the overall organizational culture. The Engaged Employee Podcast starts now. Welcome to the Engaged Employee Podcast. My name is Coach Lee, and my guest today is Jeri Quinn. Jeri is the CEO of Driving Improved Results, which supports organizations with everything from executive coaching and strategic planning to customer service training and even sales coaching. Coming from a background where she's seen and worked in toxic cultures, Jeri has become passionate about empowering employees to love their work. Her mission is to coach and mentor all levels in an organization so that they have a voice and a sense of agency. After working with her, clients report productivity and collaboration increases as more employees feel free to engage and communicate ideas with peers and managers. Imagine that. Our conversation today will be focused on interpersonal relationships between coworkers and colleagues. Jeri! Welcome.
Hello, Coach Lee. It's great to be here. I'm so glad that you gave me such a warm welcome. And my God, you made me sound really good. I hope I live up to the bar here.
Well, thank you. That feels really good to hear that. But of course you are. I know you have a wealth of experience. And so that's what we're here to tap into today, because I know when I read some of the stuff that you had written into the show about your toxic environments, that you have a story to share that's going to help us understand how can we move through that. But our relationship or our conversation today is focused on interpersonal relationships, and it's exactly that. So let's learn a little bit about you, though. I did say a few things about you in the introduction, but can you tell us how you got started in this?
Sure. So I started as a teacher. I thought growing up that I was going to be a teacher and that was going to be the be all and end all of all I wanted to be. But I did it for several years, and it was time to go get a master's degree. And I said, do I really want to be a teacher my whole life? So I said to myself, no, let's go get some more learning. And I went to grad school and I took a course in dance movement therapy. So I became a therapist, but in the realm of dance, and which I have a background in, and movement, and body language, and also verbal coaching and therapy. So I actually got very heavily into the psychology of how people learn and develop and need safety, and how much their culture and their surroundings matter, as well as their peers and those that they work with, and those who are in their families and social circles as well. And then after that, I had a bunch of kids, and really three.
And bunch of kids. You sound it's almost sounded like you had 13.
Well, not quite. But it felt like a bunch sometimes because, kids can be a strain after a while. But I lived through it and I learned a lot because I, was very involved in their development. And I was very conscious and aware of how people grow and how people collect experiences and how that makes them who they are. And then how that creates their worldview. And then, of course, the rest of their life, they're looking at their life through this worldview. as well as the rest of the environment, is shaped by that worldview.
Yeah.
So, how do I become better at helping people shape their worldview to be more realistic and less affected by trauma, less affected by specific things in their background that color things one way or the other? Um,
So you've had this experience where you just kind of fell in love with the idea of exploring what humans respond to and how to nurture and grow them. And this happened before you had kids, right? Or was it
oh,
after? Because it was
it
before, it was
happened in high school, it
high
happened in
school.
college, it happened as a
Yeah.
teacher, it happened in getting a psychology degree. And then I started having businesses. So I've had 6 businesses. I've been
Mm,
a serial entrepreneur. And in between, some of them I actually worked for larger organizations. So I really had a smattering of experiences leading and then being part of somebody else's leadership, right?
mhm.
Seeing things from both ends. And I've been in there where, you posit some great ideas and nobody takes them up. And then after you leave, everybody uses your
Oh,
ideas.
that's pretty awful. Yeah, so you've had some of those experiences where you didn't feel like your voice was heard. Even now you have this after having this knowledge of,
Mhm.
this is how you connect with humans, this is how we learn and grow. You've had your kids to kind of see how you've impacted them, and you've been in these environments in which it doesn't feel so great to have your ideas stolen or pushed aside, and your voice just kind of muffled. So
Yeah.
I know that's why you do what you do today. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about what you do and how you help the companies that you serve?
Okay, I do 2 things. First of all, I'm an executive coach. So I help people look at their lives and I ask them questions about whether they want choice one or choice two. And you can see that I use my background as door one and door two to reinforce that, because everybody has a choice, whether to stand still and not move forward, or to take a road less traveled by, to use a certain expression, or to actually not stagnate, but to actually take a choice that leads to more activity. And so I really encourage people to have a personal coach so they can evaluate what are their career choices and what are their life choices and how do those go together, and how do you assert yourself and stand up for yourself, and what are the limits? You get what you tolerate, right? So where are you setting your boundaries so that people don't encroach on your boundaries? And then I lead a team of other people who do professional training and development in areas that I don't address, more DEI related things or presentation skills or process improvement skills. And we do that for organizations as well as for individuals.
That's wonderful. Everyone needs another person to help them reflect. I
Mhm.
strongly believe that. My ego likes to tell me that I can figure out on my own, but I have to quiet that guy down. Like, shh, just ask somebody else because they have a different point of view and different life experiences. And you bring all of that to the table. Can you tell us how you've helped the company with those life experiences? How you transformed companies? Maybe a story that you might have of your success.
Sure. Even in my own company, we had a big bid to do, and it was like $1 million bid. And this was an IT type of company. And the teamwork that got involved, because I did a lot to bring all the different pieces together, but somebody else figured out how the format that they wanted in, like a Word format, but it wasn't structured in Word. So we had to really figure out the format. And then somebody had to go get the pricing, and somebody had to arrange for the delivery, and other people had to put in their input into how we would organize the, the the hardware part of it, and then there was the training part of it. And so it really was a work where a dozen people contributed to getting this bid out on time, and we actually won the bid. And we actually had to defend it, and another person and I went and defended it. It was like we knew it so well, we were finishing each other's sentences. And that sense of teamwork and cohesion and collaboration is a wonderful thing. It just makes you full of dopamine and euphoria that you've got these really strong relationships with people in your company. And that's one of the highlights. And of course, I've been in companies where there have been really toxic situations, like some situations where there's one-upmanship. Well, I can do better than you can, and even though it's not said in that way, and sometimes it's put in the form of a jest or a joke, it really is a thousand microcuts, right? That microaggression um, that is put forth in such a way as it doesn't sound like it's outright put you down, but
Yeah.
it is based on put you down.
Yeah, we're just
Horrible.
joking. It's not a big deal. Don't be so sensitive. This is how business is. Oh my, but it is very disconnecting. I want to know that I'm on your team. Hello, I'm on your team. I'm not against you. I'm not fighting you. I'm on your team. So let's work together because
Mhm.
aren't we working for the same goal? So, you being in those situations, I'd be curious to know because my listeners out there might be in a situation with one upmanship and they're stuck and they're frustrated because people around them don't want to collaborate or don't see them as a real contributor. What would you say to them? What's something that they can actually do to navigate that space?
Do not engage in it. Do not engage in the one-upmanship. Actually try to befriend people. Ask them about their personal goals. Ask them how you can help them with their personal goals. And when they get into the one-upmanship conversation, well, I did this, but you didn't do that, or talking in front of the boss about how every great idea is their great idea. Um, just be strong and stable and positive and be the person who wants to constantly learn and to grow. And if somebody gets in your way and they are not, not being conducive to forming a good relationship, like they're going to practice their one-upmanship on you and it hurts you in some way, say, that's not the way I live my life. I don't tolerate that. Go direct that at somebody else because, it's not welcome here. And then be interested in them as they are a person. So demonstrate with how you want to see them be with how you model yourself. Like be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, I like that a whole lot. I was behind the scenes. I know y'all can't see me on the podcast, but if you're listening, but I went behind the scenes and I was like smiling so big because I'm like, yeah, just don't engage in that stuff. But the words that you said was, I don't engage in this, and that's it. You don't need to do anything else or give it any more energy. That's what I got from it. I think, wow, what a very powerful way to handle the situation.
Yeah. So I have a quick story. And you want another quick story?
Sure, please.
Sure. So here's a story that I use in my coaching sometimes. There is a indigenous person, and it's a story about him and his grandson. They go up on a mountain, and they're talking about life, and they spot a carcass that two wolves are fighting over. And the grandson says, "Granddad, which one is going to win?" And the granddad says, "The winner is the one that you feed." Which means if you feed it positive energy, it's going to win. If you feed it negative energy, that's going to win. So always feed your positive energy because that's going to win in the end.
Yes, I really like that story because it is about what you put your focus and put your energy into. And if you are focusing or listening to that person is like, I did something better, or I can do something, they're gonna come back to you and tell you about how much they're going to do better because you kind of listen. You listen to them. So you got to kind of teach them that that's not the kind of relationship that you want to have. I like the alternative also too, or the actual add-on to it is to show interest in them as a person rather
Yeah.
than the thing that they can do.
Yeah. And you've got to model positive energy because
Mm,
maybe somebody never saw that in their life. Maybe they grew up in a home where their parents, maybe even parents substitutes because parents were missing, um, just got into the whole one-upmanship, and that's all they've seen. And
yeah.
so you need to model something different for them, and perhaps what the strength and the stability that you model will get you promoted, and then they will, yeah, after a period of jealousy, will start to say, well, I guess I need to act that way too if I want to make progress in my career.
Right on. After a period of jealousy, because you can't escape them haters. You cannot escape the haters.
There's
But
always going to be people who don't learn, who are so
Mhm.
blinded. And that's another thing that coaching does. Coaching is reflection. It's like I'm a mirror to people. But what I often do is point out blind spots that they don't see themselves because, they're looking at their lives through their own
their own.
background. And there's a lot of blind spots that might have developed because of their perspective, which was developed over their previous life, which lacks certain components. So
Absolutely. Now, Jerry, I think that you shared so much great information here with us today. So many gems and ideas, especially that actionable step with what you can say to your coworker who's trying to one up you. What can you do with that energy to create the space that you want to have, the workplace that you want to have? And I know my listeners are just as excited as I am, and they want to know, where can they find you? Where's your website? Where can you
so
find you?
Yeah, so I have a website, which is drivingimprovedresults.com. And my email is Jeri, Jeri, at drivingimprovedresults.com. And then I have a pretty well-formulated LinkedIn URL at Jeri Quinn, so that you can look me up there and see the relevant parts of my resume. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can see my posts. And please connect with me on LinkedIn messaging, because I really would like to support people, and feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to answer questions or be supportive in small ways, and until you decide you want to be engaged in a larger way.
Definitely, definitely connect with Jerry. Go find her on LinkedIn right now and have a conversation with her. You won't regret it. I know she dropped some gems. She moved you today. So go get some more of that good information. Jerry, I want to thank you so much for being on this podcast today. I really enjoyed what you had to say. Take care.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Another insightful episode of the Engaged Employee Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the deep dive into the world of employee engagement, leadership, and workplace dynamics. The Engaged Employee Podcast is brought to you by the Patterns of Possibility, where we help people make more meaningful relationships in both their personal and professional life. Before we wrap up, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our incredible guests and, of course, our loyal listeners. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you valuable content each week. If you found today's discussion thought-provoking and want to learn more about how we can help you or your organization make more meaningful relationships, go to patternsofpossibility.com and book a friendly conversation with me. Or you can email me your questions at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. Stay connected with us and engage with fellow listeners by following the Patterns of Possibility on LinkedIn. You can also catch us on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay in the loop. And if you prefer the audio version, make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your support means the world to us, and by subscribing, you'll never miss an episode. Thank you for being a part of our journey to create workplaces where passion meets productivity. Until next time, I'm Coach Lee. Stay engaged, stay inspired.